Hello, everybody. I would like to thank you for joining. My name is Amanda Boltë, and I'd like to welcome you all to the RGD's webinar panel, Freshly Certified Creating Effective Case Studies. Before we begin, just a reminder that if you have any questions for our panel, you can submit them using the questions tab in the webinar control panel. We also invite you to interact with us on Twitter and Instagram using the hashtag RGDWeb. So my name is Amanda Boltë, and I'm Creative Director from CDM, or Cineplex Digital Media. I am an RGD and currently serving as a member on the Certification Committee. I'm also a Certification Presenter Reviewer. As mentioned, if you have any questions for our presenter today, please use the question tab. We will hold all questions until the end of the panel so that panelists are all able to present. Today's webinar is discussing the RGD certification experience, but mainly focused around the case study development and presentation. Our panel of recently certified RGDs will break down their case studies, why they chose it, and the process of putting it together, gathering the assets to results, and how they chose to present it. But first, for those who are interested in RGD and the overall certification, let me do a general introduction. RGD members are a community of over 4,000 like-minded professionals, including firm owners, freelancers, managers, educators, and students, with access to professional development, resources, and a vibrant exchange of information. Through RGD, Canadian designers exchange ideas, educate and inspire, and set professional standards and build a strong, supportive community dedicated to advocating the value of design. So for more information about the RGD and the resources available to members or larger design community events, please visit the website at rgd.ca. So today we're chatting about certification. Becoming an RGD is broken down into 4 steps. Filling out the application to see if you are eligible, taking an online test, virtual online portfolio review, and the presentation of the results from the RGD. But today's focus is about the fun part, in my opinion, the virtual online portfolio review. This is where the designers get to be designers. Portfolios are presented virtually over 30 minutes to 3 senior design practitioners, serving as RGD reviewers. Candidates present the same 6 pieces submitted as part of the RGD certification application, step 1. During the review, you are able to speak to all case studies within 30 minutes while going into depth onto one of those 6 pieces. And first I'm going to pass it off to Amanda, and she's going to introduce herself, her case study, and her portfolio review process. The floor is yours, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda. Great name, by the way. Hi, everyone. My name is Amanda DeVries. I own Eye Candy Designs. I'm an independent designer in the London area, London, Ontario. I've been a designer for over 15 years now, but I just joined RGD last year. Honestly, I had been actually lurking RGD for a long time, participating in the webcasts and drinks and discussion events and things like that, and really got a lot out of meeting the people there. And just, I was always really impressed by the quality of speakers and people that were brought in. It was always super inspiring. And so I decided that I wanted to get even more out of it by joining RGD. So I did that last year. So yeah, certified in 2019. I'm going to talk today about a refreshing a packaging design that I did for a local company. Their name is Kasuma. They create very all-natural vegan energy bars. And they've been around for quite a number of years, and they're well established in a lot of our local markets and specialty retailers. And they were really happy where they were. However, they had an eye sort of to branch out and expand further into the retail space. It was interesting when I first had the meeting with them because their feedback at the time was that people were pretty happy with their current packaging, which I'm just showing you now. And so we had a discussion around that. And for myself personally, I wanted to showcase this particular case study because I have found over the time, just learning more about myself, that I really like the challenge of a refresh. Sometimes starting right from scratch can be a pretty daunting design challenge, but when you sort of have to consider the business challenges that your clients might be having, understanding that they have really sound knowledge about their target audience, who they're trying to market to, what the messaging should be. I really like that challenge of taking what they have as an existing assets and sort of aligning it with their business goals a little bit stronger. So this was a good project for me to present to RGD as part of my certification. So being able to take that sort of equity that they already have in their brand and being able to elevate it visually. I found the overall process of putting the case study together very easy. I think RGD does a great job setting up the application process, asking the right questions in terms of, you know, what are the challenges and how did you go through the process? It's already structured in the questions. They're not asking you to create an entire essay around it. So it's really just a matter of plugging in the thoughts that I already had. So, you know, in this particular case, they had 9 different flavors. They were already color coded, as you can see. And it was, so I wanted to preserve that aspect of it. You know, if they have a loyal fan base already that sort of heads towards the color that they know is going to be the flavor that they're looking for. So the challenge was really just taking that idea, having the ingredients really speak for themselves. I wanted to do a little bit more of that. And also, as you can,
I'm sorry, just to interrupt you just for a second. We're not able to see anything on your screen, so I don't know if you were just able to.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Do I need to? Oh, okay.
I feel terrible for interrupting you.
No, that's good. Can you see it now?
Welcome to 2020, everybody.
Okay, can you see it now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, you can see the challenges in the existing packaging was that there wasn't a lot of visual hierarchy. You know, everything sort of had the same proportional weight to it, so it was difficult to see what the flavor was about, what were the features of that product. Other challenges in this particular case was that it is a food product, so there's a lot of labeling regulation around that in terms of, you know, your barcodes and ingredient lists and nutrition facts and that. So we had to make sure all of that was obviously included. Another point was that we were moving from this sort of hand-labeled product to a pre-printed packaging. So that was another step and another challenge for all of us in terms of sourcing suppliers and figuring out what was needed. So I did go through the process of creating 3 different concepts. We narrowed them down. We talked about again, what the audience would really want to see in terms of recognizing it as a familiar product, but also moving that, elevating the design visually, like I said. So we did do some tweaking and came up eventually with this final product. So you can see the colors were still preserved. The logo was still prominent. That was something that was important to them. And then we just took the photography that they had been using for the various ingredients and converted them to these icons. So again, you can very easily, at a glance, even if you don't know the product, you can see right away what is contained within it and choose your flavor, your preferred flavor accordingly. The overall, the clients were super happy about the overall result. It's interesting to see how Instagrammable these packaging have been since. They've also definitely reported an increase in sales. It was interesting to talk to them shortly after that because they said it sort of ended up changing the whole way they did business. The increased sales meant increased output, and so they had to talk to suppliers about getting things in faster and all that. So it was really encouraging to go back to them and understand the impact that the design had on their business. So just going through these a little bit. And yeah, in the back of the packaging. So usually if you can get, you know, the client's confidence in what you're doing, they'll often extend the project. So we have been looking at, we did create some postcards that you can see here. And we're moving into retail ready boxes and point of sale displays and that. So it's been a really great process. I really liked being able to present this project to RGD because, like I said, there was a very specific challenge, process, and then result. And so if you can sort of package a project of your own in that style, then it's really helpful to sort of articulate your thoughts. And yeah, that's about it. I have no idea how I did for time.
You're fantastic, Amanda. Thank you so much. That was beautiful, beautiful work, and I appreciate you sharing your process with us. So next up, I'm going to pass it off to Elana, and she's going to be sharing her process as well, and the steps that she went through to choose and present her portfolio piece. So you should have that now.
Okay, can you guys see me?
We can see you, and just make sure that you share your screen.
Yes. I'm going to share my screen shortly. I'm just going to talk a little and then I will share it.
No problem.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Elana Rudick. I'm the founder and creative director at Design is Yummy. Design is Yummy is an award-winning studio in Montreal, Quebec, and we specialize in crafting thoughtful and engaging designs for both print and web solutions. We also specialize in brand identity. And I feel really lucky that I get to work with diverse clients from different industries because that keeps my job really interesting. And it made selecting case studies for the RGD a little bit challenging, but I'll explain why I selected this one in a little bit. And what I really love about getting to work with different industries is it keeps my job interesting. Myself and my team, when we come to work, every day is new, different, and that's what's kept me really motivated for the last 15 some years in this business. I got my certification very recently in May 2020. I started the process in March, right before the pandemic hit. I definitely didn't expect to be going through the online portfolio review as well as the timed exam at home with my 2 young kids running around. So that was definitely an interesting challenge that brought an added level of challenge to the process, but everyone at RGD was really patient and awesome. So it was a really amazing experience, and I have to say it's been really rewarding to join such a great community. And the reason why I decided to join the RGD finally after thinking about it for a few years was because I really wanted to be part of this rich and diverse community that I could continue growing from professionally. So by sharing my knowledge and learning more skills from the talented designers in the RGD, I felt like I could elevate myself professionally. And also I think by having an association that promotes moral and ethical design standards, it really helps to set a higher standard of how people outside of the design community view us as well. So that was important to me too. Some advice when you're selecting a case study, if you decide to go through the certification process, is to choose pieces that you're really passionate about. I find it's a lot easier to talk about your work if you really love what you're sharing. So that's why I selected this piece that I'm going to show you guys now. Hold on, technical skill stuff. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Amazing. Okay, so today I'm going to be sharing with you the 2019-2020 season campaign that my team and I designed for the Siegel Center for Performing Arts. And the reason why I chose this piece is because I wanted to be able to show my ability to think about work within a suite or a context of a larger picture. So our production graphics usually get adapted for each season to billboards, brochures, large format posters, ads, bus shelters, etc. So they each have to work as a standalone poster, but they also need to work within the suite of a larger context and a brand that works for the Siegel Center. Also, another reason I chose this piece to share with you guys today is because I have a long history with the Siegel Center. The work that I'm showing you guys today is for the professional theater side, but they also have a community theater division. And my family was in the community theater side of things when I was a kid. And I remember vividly going backstage and seeing productions there in the audience. So I really was very excited to have the opportunity a few years ago to work with them. Kind of made a full circle thing for me, so that was pretty cool. This was our 4th year working with the Siegel Center and collaborating with them on their season graphics. We create 7 production graphics for them, as well as a complete season brochure. And our goal for the season was to create vibrant graphics that would attract viewers of all ages, particularly younger viewers. They have a bit of a history of an older audience, and by our change of graphics here, we were really trying to draw in younger audiences as well. And there are 2 big challenges that I really faced when dealing with working with the Siegel Center. The first one is that they have multiple clients. So we're not just working with the Siegel Center staff and board of directors, but we also have to please each of the production houses that's bringing their production or collaborating with the Siegel Center on a show there. So it's almost like 2 clients. The timelines can also be incredibly tight. So sometimes show will change last minute, contracts change. It's a bit of a whirlwind sometimes, and we'll have a week to develop the concept and versus something that we've been working on for a month or two. The first graphic that I'm going to show you guys was the first show of the season was The Pianist of Willesden Lane. So this is a production that had been touring across internationally actually, and they had an existing graphic. So this was their existing graphic that they wanted to continue working with, and they were adamant about that, but it really didn't fit with the bright, colorful season we were trying to create for the Siegel Center. So it definitely took a bit of convincing. Usually we'll work on anywhere from 2 to 5 drafts for each production. This one took a bit longer to convince them, but what we ultimately came up with was, after seeing the image on the left of the production, we were able to take that idea of the frame that keeps recurring in the set and bring that into the graphic, with the center being their existing poster. So that worked out really well for them. And the next, I'm going to show you a video. It may be choppy, there's no sound, so your speakers aren't broken. If you see that graphic there, the reason I'm showing this, even though I know it's super choppy over a webinar, is because it gives you a sense of the vibrancy of this pop rock production called Mythic. And I really wanted you to get a sense of that and why we adapted the graphic the way we did. So this was also an existing production that had a graphic that they had been touring with, and this was what they were working with. Again, it didn't fit within the Siegel Center brand for us because we had wanted to standardize the typography across the entire season and have an interplay between a image and type, and this didn't allow us to do that. So it took some convincing to get them on board with what we were trying to do, but once they saw the graphic, they adapted it. Another reason why I was sharing the Siegel Center as a case study with the RGD is because I wanted to show with each piece a different facet of myself as a designer. And with this piece, I was trying to show that the work that we do is intentional. So there's always thought between each element on the page. And with showcasing Mythic, I feel we were able to do that. We had created these custom illustrations, and all the illustrations on the hand that make up those tattoos are very specific to the theme of Mythic of the show. So it gave an extra added level of thought and showing that care that we put into our design on the poster and when I was presenting to the RGD. And what was great, and to be able to showcase some results of this, was that Mythic drew an audiences much younger than their typical demographic, and the show was extended. As well, it was picked up by the Mirvish Theatre in Toronto, and hopefully that's still going to happen in 2021. And what's great, and we were really excited about it as well, is that they decided to continue moving forward with our graphics versus their original. The next show in the season was Small Mouth Sounds. One of the challenges that we face is that we create the production graphics about a year before the shows are actually cast. So we wanted to have a poster with actors on it, but we don't know who those actors are. So we tried to hide their faces subtly. So for example, the yogi's facing backwards, the hipster has sunglasses and a beard, and the woman sitting down has her face covered. So it could be the actors and actresses in the show, but it just made it less obvious that it wasn't them. When COVID hit, we were actually in the middle of the run of The Times They Are Changing. It was an extended run, which was awesome. And unfortunately, with COVID, that got cut short. So the next two productions that were set to launch in their season were Oslo and Siberian Summer. And unfortunately, they haven't been on stage yet, but we're hoping that they will be. And if they are in the new year, they will be continuing with our graphics as well. So that's my case study that I'm going to share with you guys. And I just wanted to share also that the certification, it's definitely a process. And I think for some people, they think of it as public speaking, which can feel like a daunting task. But really, you're just sharing with other designers what you love to do. And you've already done the work in preparing the case studies when you're giving the written part. So if you think of it as sharing some information with peers and showcasing your work, it's a lot less scary. And yes, the application is a process, but I really think that's a good thing, because if it were quick and easy and anyone would do it, it really wouldn't have such a high caliber of members. So I really appreciated the process of it, and it gave me a chance to think more about my own work and my intentions. So thank you to the RGD for inviting me to share a case study with you guys today. And if you have any questions or comments, feel free to get in touch.
Thank you so much. That was excellent. You know, great things, a great discussion. I appreciate your involvement as well. So now we're going to pass it off to Kayla, and she is going to run through her process as well. So I'm just going to find you on my list here, sorry. There you are. Good?
Yeah,
excellent.
Okay, you can see me?
I can see you. I can see your work. You're good to go.
Okay, so my name's Kayla English. I'm a graphic designer. I've been one for just over 10 years professionally. Right now, I split my time freelancing and also running a business, an event venue with my husband, where I kind of do all the in-house work for the marketing, creative content creation kind of side of things. So I kind of get to dabble in different areas. Yeah, so a lot of design, that's kind of the base of what I do. When I'm freelancing, you probably won't find me on the internet. I don't really have a website right now. I'm kind of just going through like referrals, which is working. So don't look too hard. Yeah, so I do a lot of work for small businesses. Kind of my favorite and my specialty is doing logo work or brand identities for kind of startups or small businesses to kind of get them the things they need to start and succeed. And I got certified, I guess I got my papers in June, so really recently this year. Yeah, it's always been something I've wanted to do also, so I'm very thankful that I got it done. And I was very, I held off for a long time because I was nervous about it, and it just felt weird having someone go through your work like that. But really, it was worth it. I'm so excited about it. I'm so excited to be part of the community, and also it wasn't near as intimidating as I expected it to be. So if you're thinking about it, be encouraged. So the work I'm going to show today is a logo and brand identity I did recently for a client. She's a fitness instructor slash kind of like body positivity activist slash just wellness person, business person. And she didn't really have much of a presence online, and she just really wanted to grow her business on the web and just kind of make a splash. So yeah, she has this philosophy, kind of like the Japanese wabi-sabi, perfectly imperfect kind of, that's kind of what drives her business. So I guess the process was to meet with her and learn about her business. I even took classes to learn how she teaches and you know, what her normal outlook on her clients were and kind of how she lived life and who she was as a person, because the brand was really going to reflect her. So I did that, and I took a lot of notes, and I started with sketches, and she kind of presented some of her concerns, some of her problems, and kind of where she wanted to go. So I made notes again, and I'm also looking at my notes. Yeah, we made a bunch of keywords kind of that encompassed her and her clients and her focus. I guess some of her biggest challenges were to kind of emerge in a sea of, you know, online fitness trainers and kind of the sea of perfection and the industry, and kind of she wanted to stand out as being different. And yeah, it's a kind of a tough industry to embark on. So we went with, yeah, we had a bit of strategy behind it. So just let me. Yeah, so what we decided to do was to kind of jump off the perfectly imperfect, and I did a million brush strokes in my sketchbook with paintbrushes to try and get a mark that kind of stood out to her and that was her. So the kind of wavy mark you see, she teaches a lot of women. So it can be a women's silhouette, it can be a wave because we're on the West Coast. If you turn it the other way, it can be an M for Monica. It can also be mountains because she leads a lot of adventures in the mountains for groups. And it's also, she went through a battle with cancer, so it represents her journey and her cancer scar, and it also represents something that's not perfect. It's kind of jaggedy, and it really is who she is. So we kind of paired that with kind of clean type, and I made sure that she could have lots of options for avatars for being on social media and kind of set her up that way. And we chose bright colors because when she is teaching, she's always wearing bright colors and all her equipment is bright, and it really seemed to go with who she is with her Colombian heritage. And yeah, so she's very happy and she's loving it so far. She's just killing it on the web right now with COVID, so it was kind of perfect timing getting her set up. Because she's teaching Zoom classes and a lot of her business has naturally moved online now. So I reached out to her when I was doing this to kind of see how things were going. And yeah, her Instagram count has went way up. She's fully booked, she can't take any more, and she's doing well. So that is that. Not as exciting as performing arts, but that's okay. And
did you want to go to the next page? I know that there was more work as well too.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so I did some print collateral for her too, and kind of helped her social media graphics and kind of get her set up that way. There you go.
Thank you, Kayla. No, that was fantastic. I was one of Kayla's reviewers, so I hope I'm not too intimidating. The one thing that I loved from your interview, that when we were going through the presentation, was you made a comment, said that, you know, this was kind of like having other people look through your underwear drawer. And I loved that. I thought it was hilarious because you are really talking to reviewers. You're not so much of talking to like, you're talking to designers, you're talking to people who know the work and love the work and really do want to see you succeed. And to Elana's point is like finding something that you're passionate in and something that you've invested your time and your love into really makes it easy to work. So thank you so much, Kayla. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass off the presentation now to Marcos, and so have him go through his case study as well.
Great, thank you very much, Amanda, and to the RGD for showing me. Sorry. Can you guys see my screen, or? Yeah. Okay. Give me 1 second.
I was muted. Sure can.
Okay, great. So yeah, my name is Marcos Terenzio, and I am Vice President of Creative and Strategy at iGotcha Media. And we are an integrated brand experience agency that's focused on delivering digital experiences, primarily within physical retail and public spaces and different types of environments. And my role specifically there is helping to look at what the right role for digital experience, technology, and obviously content and creative is to help bring those experiences to life. So I chose a case study from when I did my certification, which was last year. Before that official certification time period, I was actually a provisional RGD member for several years while at my previous agency, Chicoutimi Lacroix Design. Jean-Pierre Lacroix was one of the founding members of the RGD and past president. So, you know, RGD was always something that was well instilled even before joining Chicoutimi. I remember as a young designer attending my first Design Thinkers and coming out of there completely inspired and motivated and really feeling like I wanted to be part of this community. So after making the decision to leave Chicoutimi and join iGotcha, I knew that I still wanted to be a part of the RGD. So I thought, why not go ahead and do my full certification? So to do so, I put together some case studies, which were part of portfolio case studies that typically we would present to clients. So this is some work that I'm showing from Shikitaniqua Design here. What I want to show is this case study for Nu Skin. And Nu Skin is a global brand. They are a multi-billion-dollar organization that focuses on skincare products, anti-aging, really the science behind cosmetics and skincare products. And they work through a B2B channel, meaning they resell their products a lot through people who are estheticians or have clinical practices. And they bring on salespeople who help to aggregate or consolidate that extension of their brand a bit larger. So similar to like an Amway model, but a lot more in the high-end cosmetics and skincare line. So the reason why I chose this case study is because it does a good job of showcasing who the client was, what some of their challenges and objectives were, and then also does a good job of showcasing how digital experiences can integrate it with a progressive retail environment. And as we all know, retail has taken a really big hit over these past couple of months due to COVID-19. And now that retail is starting to really open back up and people are going back to physical environments, brands really need to do a really good job of winning back that customer base and making them feel comfortable to come into their environments, and beyond that, really feel inspired and tell richer stories in these spaces. So, with Nu Skin, they were really targeting millennials, and they obviously want to cater to a younger demographic, which is always challenging for them because they're selling anti-aging skincare products that tend to skew a little bit towards an older demographic. But not only did they want to start attracting a younger customer base or end customer base, they also wanted to appeal to a younger demographic of resellers that would be communicating their products and selling them. So millennials were a real target for them. So they wanted to create this immersive retail showroom experience where it was less about actually selling the product and it was more about telling this incredible story. So, the first process was really integrating with mobile devices. In particular, we worked on this installation in China. And in China, as I'm sure many of you know, WeChat is something that's completely entrenched in people's culture in China. It's their mobile device, it's their mobile wallet, it's their communication tool, their messaging tool, their browser. So in this specific space, what we wanted to do was integrate with the mobile device, recognize visitors as they entered the space, allow them to sync their phone through WeChat, and be able to continue the conversation with them after they've left the physical environment, or use it as a tool to take communications and marketing collaterals with them as they navigate and browse the physical space. So when they first enter, and I apologize if this video is choppy, but I think even if it's showing every other frame, it'll still do a good job of representing the work. So you first come into this immersive 360 theater, which was created with 5 projectors that were frame blended together to give you a seamless canvas that wrapped around this round room. As you're going around the room, we identified 5 key zones that would talk to the various aspects that they wanted to communicate. The first one being the history of Nu Skin, all their science and innovation dating back to the late 70s, early 80s, what they've done over time, Nu Skin's mission and vision, their campaign and events, community involvement. They are very active philanthropic organization. They donate millions of dollars a year to several charitable organizations. And also they wanted to celebrate their top salespeople through recognition and awards. So as you move through this round immersive theater, it breaks up into 5 zones, and each zone is a place where people can actually stay and discover, much like you would in a bit of a museum-like experience. So as you exit out of the immersive theater and you find yourself in the main showroom area, you can see that there's an undulation or a constant wave pattern in the architecture that wraps the entire environment. This is because we built our concept all revolved around a fountain. So Nu Skin's identity and logo is actually a fountain, and they often refer to it as a fountain of youth. So we spin that campaign for them, and we worked on a campaign which was the Fountain of You, which is basically a way that people could empower and enrich their lives by becoming resellers of this brand, and at the same time that people can empower themselves through the great cosmetic products that are taking place. So you can see that there is a flexible digital screen that wraps the entire perimeter of the space, and we created really engaging digital signage, communications, and content that had motion sensors in front of them. So as people were at a distance, it would showcase lifestyle content. As they approached and got near, then it would trigger content that was specific to the products that were merchandised on display near the actual screens. Next to that, we had a table which had smart mirrors, and these smart mirrors provided the ability for people to try on different cosmetics products as well. The smart mirrors did a great job of recognizing certain imperfections in their skin, whether it's wrinkles or dark circles, and people could actually buy these screens, take them home, and make them part of their skincare regimen. It would actually make recommendations as to the proper products that Nu Skin creates that would help them improve their skincare condition, and then they could follow a progression and see how that improves over time. As you continue to move around the space, you see these tall, beautiful acrylic pillars that have double-sided digital signage displays within. And here is where we really featured the newest products, the innovation, the latest and greatest products that were available in the Nu Skin environment. And as you continue to go through the space, you find yourself in the pickup area. So again, we have a large LED wall that wraps the whole perimeter of this pickup space with really engaging motion graphics, digital signage content that myself and my team all put together. And as well, there's the ability to have tablets where if someone wanted to make a purchase, if they hadn't already made a purchase on their mobile device or online to pick up in store, they have an area where they can actually do that on the spot, as well as fill out different questionnaires and request more information on how to possibly become a reseller of this space. So that's it for the actual case study. So again, I think to echo some of Elana's points, it's very important that when you showcase your work, you showcase something that you're passionate about, that you believe in. You know, you should always be thinking about presenting work the way that you would present it to a client. So it's important to find a common bond with the person that's reviewing your work or viewing your work, whether it's a client or an RGD reviewer, that they can relate to, that they can gravitate towards. So in my case study, for example, I highlighted, you know, who my target audience was, what some of the business objectives were behind the work, and how the work actually would help to communicate some of those challenges and objectives and help them deliver a richer experience. So I think as designers, we all think about that. We all implement typically some sort of design thinking methodology or similar process in our work. So I would encourage all of you to make sure that you emphasize that, you echo and share that as you're presenting your work. It's not always just about how beautiful the actual design was. Sometimes the thinking, the rationale, and what led you to go down a certain road is just as important. And definitely when you're presenting to fellow designers, it's something that you know, we can all look to and appreciate. So I also want to say that I chose to become an RGD member because after being in the industry for several years, I know that the industry's been kind to me. I've learned from several great designers over the years, and I'm at a point in my career where I'd like to start contributing and giving back and helping people. So if any of you would like to reach out and ask for any type of advice or any type of suggestions on your work, your presentation, or even why the benefits of RGD can apply to you, feel free to reach out. I'd be happy to speak to you. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Marcos. That was fantastic. I will definitely be reaching out afterward, assuming I have my own little stakehold in digital media. But that was fantastic. Your fly-through was very cool. But I think that today's presentation has really showed like the gamut of the different the different case studies and the different presentation skills that that are done during our presentations. And I appreciate all 5 of you joining us today. I think that it really showed a spread of abilities. If you do have any questions, please put them through to the questions tab, but I will start off with asking our panelists. And I can start with Amanda. Sorry to pick on you, it's just the namesake. What was, were there any challenges that you faced during the certification process at all that you want to share with anybody?
Am I unmuted now? I'm just not sure. Can you hear me?
You're unmuted.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, for me, actually, I didn't find personally any challenges at all. One thing I wanted to say, like I said before, the application process is very specific in their questions, and so being able to fill that out and then consequently come up with a presentation of my case study, I found it pretty straightforward. I do like the fact that you get this opportunity to articulate your thoughts, because I do find that even if you were to avoid this whole certification process altogether, when you start working in design, you'll find that you do need to defend your design choices constantly to clients and peers. And so just having that practice and being able to put your thoughts together and be able to defend those choices is super important. So this is a great way to do it. It's a great safe place to do it, where you're talking with other designers who understand where you're coming from, and it's really great practice. So, you know, in that sense, I think it was an easy process. On the other hand, of course, just spending that extra time, we're all really busy, and having to do this outside of your regular job can be a challenge. But as my dad always said growing up, you know, nothing easy is worth doing. Usually there needs to be a barrier to keep the chaff away, and yeah, and being able to challenge yourself a little bit more will put you further ahead. So yeah.
That's excellent. Elana, was there any challenges that you faced during the process?
I think for me, the main challenges that I faced were, again, like Amanda said, finding the time to do this was part of the reason why I had delayed it for a long time. But then doing this and compounded during the time of COVID added a whole other level to me that made me realize I should have just done it sooner. Because if I could handle this during all that madness, and the reviewers were super kind and patient with all my background noise and chatter during my presentation. So it's a really rewarding experience to go through, and I really enjoyed putting the case studies together, and I enjoyed speaking to the reviewers about the work. So I think, you know, probably the biggest hurdles to it and the challenges of just doing it are actually what's very enjoyable about it as well. So it was a really rich experience, and I'm really happy to have gone through it.
Excellent. Kayla, any challenges, any hurdles that you had to go through?
I think for me, my biggest challenge was working around my 2 kids at home. But no, it was good. And also because like I was starting the process kind of when everything was like really shut down with the pandemic. So I did feel like I had maybe a little bit of extra time to put into it. But I think one of my biggest things was just, you have to really dive deep, because I kind of knew everything. Obviously, you go through the process and you go through everything with the client, and you kind of have reasons for everything that you did, but you don't have like a record of that really. Like you have some notes and some sketches, but to actually kind of articulate each step like in depth, it was kind of reminded me of like artist statements that you do in art school, where you kind of have to really write about the rationales behind your piece. So I really liked that exercise. It kind of affirmed, I don't know, why I did things, and just like maybe some of the reasons for my work. So it took more time actually than I expected. So maybe that's one thing just to be mindful of, but it wasn't hard per se.
Marcos?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that there was any real challenges. It was a relatively, you know, simple process. It was well organized. It was very well structured. The communications were super easy and clear. The material that needed to be reviewed was easily distributed. So no, I don't think there was any real challenges, but to echo some of the benefits that some of the other panelists have shared, to be part of a community that's focused on the advancement and empowerment of designers, I think is great. I think it's very important as designers for us to kind of collaborate and work together so that we can have both the craft of graphic design be more respected, and as the times continue to evolve and change, and a lot of the design continues to change in the way that it's structured, that it's built. It's important to be part of a larger organization, to have some of the great minds that have been here before us be part of an organization and continue to be there to mentor people, and then have young designers that are coming out of school with fresh thinking and perspective to all be in, you know, the same kind of group. I find it very very empowering, and it's something that I take a lot of great pride in to call myself an RGD member. So I really recommend going through the process. I think it's very well worth it. You're going to get to talk about something that you're passionate about, so, you know, don't be scared. I think it's well worth it.
Well, just so you guys know that my 5-year-old was screaming up the stairs, so COVID 2020 is a real thing. And so time is good. I think one important thing to note is that the RGD certification process, some people can, if you're really dedicated and you've got everything together, you can get it done in as little as a week, or it can stretch out. So it's not something that has a timeline on it. It will go as quickly as that you would like it to go. So if things come up and life comes up, the best way to start is just to start the process and then work on to the next step. You can be like me, and I took forever. Just really quickly, just before I kind of summarize and finish things up here, if you guys could say one thing to future people who are kind of on the fence, what would it be? I'll start backwards. Marcos.
I think I just said it.
My
last thing. I think I'll say it again. Yeah, I think it's definitely going to be something that'll take your career farther. It's going to open up doors for you. It's going to instill you with the confidence that you probably already have, but give you a new outlet to express it. So I highly encourage you to go for it.
Excellent. Kayla, one thing, someone who's sitting on the fence right now. Oh, you're muted.
There we go. I think just that sense of kind of setting yourself apart too, in the, you know, the sea of designers or people who, you know, have taken one course. It's kind of a celebration of the work you've put in, and also like that you did get education in your field, and it's just kind of in a sense rewarding that you have put in time and you're professional. So it's a distinction. So like we can't get a what's the initials on your business card when you're a doctor, you know, or like a registered nurse, like you know that they're the real deal. So I kind of feel like that's just kind of affirmation that, you know, you put in your time, you know what you're talking about, and you just take a weekend course kind of thing. So I think that in itself is worth it for me.
Elana?
Just to continue on what Kayla was saying about professional capacity, I think not only does it give you kind of like some street cred amongst other designers, it also gives you some cred with your clients. Once I added the RGD to my title on LinkedIn, I had a lot of clients that called me and said, what is that? What does that mean? And I think it gave them confidence in myself and my team as well. So that was a great just kind of bonus that I really enjoyed it, but also it gave some further clout to what I'm doing. So that felt really nice.
Amanda, last but not least.
Well, for me, I think, you know, I was the usual, what I was expecting to get from it, that the whole professional designation, as well as the inspiration to be gleaned from things like design thinkers. The one thing that came up unexpectedly, and it was a nice added bonus, was the network of people that I've met so far from having joined. There's some really great people here on the board, volunteers that are doing a terrific job. And I think, like any other organization, you know, you get as much as you put into it. So I've been trying to become more involved, and every time I do, I get huge satisfaction from just meeting new people and working with designers, which is super important when you're an independent designer. I should note. So yeah, I've been really happy with the network of people that I've met being here.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Amanda, Marcos, Kayla, and Elana for joining us today. I really, truly appreciate your time and your energy and giving back a little bit to RGD. For anybody else, for more information about RGD, the certification process, the resources available for members, and the larger designer community events, please visit the website at rgd.ca. or Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and LinkedIn, as you see on the screen. And just remember, if you're talking about today's presentation, use the hashtag RGDWeb. And one big highlight is our virtual Design Thinkers Conference that's happening in November. Early bird sign-up rates are available until the end of August. So sign up there, and I hope to see you all in future RGD events. So thank you so much.
Thank
Bye,
you, everyone.
guys.
Bye.
Thanks.